So the topic today is truth must be experienced. Usually in the world, when we want to know about something, what do? We rely on our schools, our teachers, and books which have been researched by people who have been on that subject for many, many years, right? That is what we do. So when we start with the search for truth, when we start our search for God, it is natural for us to first seek those books. And whose books do we seek? Those who have researched God over the centuries, right? These saints, these great masters who have lived God through their actions. And we go to those books. But is mere reading enough of those books, really? For physical phenomena, what do? We just rattle a physics book. Yeah, we know everything about the physical phenomena that's written in the book. But does that work for the truth? Because truth is not outside, it's not a physical phenomena. It lies within us. And we need to take a discovery journey inwards into us to be able to realize it. And as the reading said, it is not through the power of the five senses that we can realize. We have to go beyond the five senses. With intuitive perception, really experience that self, that inner self, the truth within us. Again, my favorite thing to talk about is food. Fortunately, the masters agree on this point, and they say that the food, you cannot satisfy your hunger just by talking about the food, right? There are so many cuisines now, delectable, delightful things just available and more opening up as the world opens up. Moroccan, Lebanese, Malay, Burmese. But just by talking about them all day and for many days, what's going to really happen? If we eat it, if we digest it, only then we get the taste, right? Only then we get the nourishment. And that's what they say, just dry intellectual reasoning with all of these words of the scriptures. What is it going to get us? Words, can be interpreted in so many different ways. Even the Bhagavad Gita alone has hundreds, if not more, commentaries based on the Gita's words. I think everybody who reads it has their own interpretation anyway. So how does that help us? These books were written by the masters who were at a very high level of consciousness. And all of us try to read that, interpret that with our level of consciousness, right? So there can be a lot of confusion. So what do the masters say? Don't just read our words. Absorb them deep within, contemplate on them, meditate on them, right? And then make those truths your own. And with Yoganandaji also, when he was with his guru in his ashram, Yukteswarji taught him the scriptures like Patanjali Yoga Sutras, the Gita, and he would go one shlok by one shlok. Sometimes Yoganandaji would be impatient that I've understood, let's move on, but he wouldn't let him move on. And he would just say on one shlok for days and weeks together. And then finally, he would allow him to move. And just after a few shloks, he said, now that's fine. Now this whole book is an open book for you because you have derived the real wisdom from the first few shloks itself. So this is how they work. And when we also absorb these truths within ourselves, then and then alone can a true inner transformation and inner change come within us. Yoganandaji also told this rather hilarious story, but with a very, profound truth behind it. He says once there was this Pandit who wants to cross the river, and he sits on a boat, and just to while away time and to glorify his own self, he asks the boatman, have you read the Rig Veda? And the boatman says, no sir, I can't say I have. And the Pandit says, my dear fellow, 25% of your life is wasted. Have you read the Yajurved? No, sir, not really. He said, 50% of your life is wasted. Have you read the Samved? No, sir, I haven't. 75% of your life is wasted. And suddenly, probably to help the boatman, the storm arises on the river, the boat starts rocking, And I mean, people have to swim across because the boat is about to capsize. So the boatman now asks the Pandit, "Do you know swimming?" He said, "Oh, no, no, I don't know swimming." And he is holding his dhoti up and letting the water. So the boatman is like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, sir. 100% of your life is gone." And so again, it's hilarious, but that's what the masters want us to do. Master said, Yogananji said, that whatever I teach you, use it, experience it, experiment with it in the laboratory of your experience. Only then accept the truth of it, when you can really feel that truth. So we had some time back a workshop on divine love, and we were talking about different ways that we could open up our hearts and express divine love to others in our life. And one of the ways Master tells us is that, even if a person hurts you, even then send them loving wishes, and somewhere or the other they will change their attitude towards you. And several of the attendees said that they had actually worked with it. And they said that it was amazing. They did not even go near that person, but suddenly there was a subtle change in that person. And they had a much better relationship. I think I also tried it once with a difficult relationship in my life, which I'm sure has been going on for years. So it is some special kind of karma. Then, after being annoyed with it for some time, I decided, now let me put Master's teachings to work. Let me send love. And that itself took me quite some time to get around. What happens when you try to put these teachings? Maya works magic, right? So many thoughts come in your mind. This is not possible. How can you do it? This is utopian. This cannot happen. And what are you even trying to do? Look at them. They'll treat you like a doormat. And why should you only suffer just because you're on a spiritual path? You're going to suffer and they are going to enjoy themselves. So all of this. Sometime I managed to set that off. And I just thought in my mind that why should I react when this is not between that person and me? This is actually between them and the masters, between them and the divine. If revenge has to be taken and my just punishment has to be given to that person, I'm not going to give it, right? So let me relax and have a normal relation, and let them decide between them what they need to do to each other. So what happened with that was just amazing. I completely relaxed in that relationship, and it started to change, because I think when you relax, you don't constantly expect the worst from that person. Or what this person is going to say is now going to really hurt me. They are going to be mean to me. So then that relaxation happens in the relationship, and it really changed. So this is how we do, go step by step with these teachings, take one step at a time and put them into our lives. They say that the masters, they have used these scriptural truths in their lives. It is not a scripture, it is not words for them. They actually live these truths. And if you have all read the autobiography of a yogi, you see these saints, the daily incidents that are happening in their lives. They are living that truth. If you've read the autobiography of a yogi, you know how hard Yogananji's family tried, that he dropped the spiritual path, or at least delay it and do more of the normal things that we do in life. His brother Ananta especially was always trying to look out for him, that this is not really going to work, First earn money, then find God, then that's fine, because God you can find anytime, but how will you live without the money? But did that ever shake Yogananji? Never really, because he lived by that truth that Christ said, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all other things will be added unto you." So Ananta challenges him, and you might have read that story, and he says, "You go to Vrindavan penniless, and then you show me how you're going to, survive like that. You keep saying God will help you." And what happened? We mostly know the story. When he went to Vrindavan, God didn't just add little paltry things to him, to his kingdom. He was heaped, poured lavishly, treated like a king without a penny in his pocket. He got scrumptious food to eat. He was given like a VIP tour of the city, completely without any money. He just went with that trust that I seek God, the rest will be taken care of. And it was like that. We didn't they didn't have ATMs and bank transfers. Suppose he did not find all this in Vrindavan, for days he could have just starved there. By the time he would have got a telegram going and somebody would have received him and come to rescue him. But he just, not even trust, he just had that inner knowing that this is true, right? I can just do it. It's like, that analogy of, you can just, Prahlad just jumped off the cliff. He knew that Vishnu is there, down there, waiting for me. So that kind of truth we have to reach in our lives by experimenting. Master said that in meditation, in your sadhana, do not rest till you have that experience, that anubhav of God communion within. And then alone can inner wisdom really arise in your heart. Thank you, Jai Guru.
Truth must be experienced. And the question is, what is this truth? I had that question when I first heard Swami Kriyananda was in search for truth when he was a young man. And I was wondering, why did he search for truth? What does it mean? And then I found it very easy and relatable when I replaced the word with God. God must be experienced. And the Sankhya and Vedanta and yoga philosophies, Paramhansa Yogananda says that Sankhya says why a human being should search God, and Vedanta describes God, and yoga tells how to reach God. So why, what and how are these philosophies? And as a kid I was very much inspired and drawn towards Vedic chanting. Any temple if they are chanting some mantras, it was so uplifting for me, and I would just go sit nearby so that I can listen to it, although I did not understand a word of it. And so one day I decided, okay, what are they chanting? Why is it so nice to listen to this? And I asked the Pandit, and he said it is Sri Rudram from Yajurveda. And then I thought, like, I should learn this, or I should go and find the meaning of this, because this is so interesting. It's so nice to listen to it. And I got a book, and when I started reading, I was, in my mind, I was thinking that it was high truths which were being recited there. And the literal translation of those mantras were infinite God, you are present in the dog, you are present in a dry leaf, you are present in a green leaf, I bow to you. You are present in the horse, you are present in the charioteer, I bow to you. And you are the robber, and you are the one who's being robbed, I bow to you. Like, this doesn't seem anything fascinating, but when I listened to it, it was uplifting, but the meaning didn't make any sense. And then later I realized that it is impossible to describe God. It is impossible to speak about God, but it is easier to experience God. And words can be very limiting, even for day-to-day communications. Swami Kriyananda shares this, example for how limiting can words be. Once Nayaswami Uma, she's from United Kingdom, and a French poet approached her to learn English from her. And when she was teaching English to him, she taught him that take a photograph from the window. And the French guy said, no, that's not the way we should say. In France we say, in French we say, take the photograph after the window. And they had a disagreement, because that's how that language works, and this is how the grammar in this language works. And he finally thought that Nayaswami Uma, who is from United Kingdom, did not know English and stopped learning from her. So words can be very limiting, and words can also expand your consciousness. For example, I read about a tribe who did not have in their language right or left. They always said directions as north, south, east, west, or north, northeast. In any way they are turned, they always referred it the direction through cardinal direction, and that increased their awareness to their surrounding and made them feel connected. So words do have their power, but we should not stop at that. We should take the next step. Just like Vasudha said, that talking about all the cuisines will inspire you to go and taste them. It will probably might increase your appetite, but just don't stop there. Take that step, put it into action so that you can experience it. And Swami Sri Yukteswar was insisting on to Paramhansa Yogananda about the futility of reading or reading too much. So I like to read a few lines from Autobiography of Yogi. So this is from the chapter Years in My Master's Hermitage, and a learned Pandit comes and visits Swami Yukteswar. A celebrated Pandit received a similar jolt. With ostentatious zeal, the scholar shook the ashram rafters with scriptural lore. Resounding passages poured from the Mahabharata, the Upanishads, the Bhashyas of Shankara. I am waiting to hear you. Sri Yukteswar's tone was inquiring, as though utter silence had reigned. The Pandit was puzzled. Quotations there have been in superabundance. Master's words convulsed me with mirth as I squatted in my corner at a respectful distance from the visitor. But what original commentary can you supply from the uniqueness of your particular life? What holy text have you absorbed and made it your own? In what ways have these timeless truths renovated your nature? Are you content to be a hollow Victrola mechanically repeating the words of other men? I give up, the scholar said. I have no inner realization. For the first time, perhaps he understood that discerning placement of the comma does not atone for a spiritual coma. And Swami Sri Yukteswar always insisted that do not confuse understanding with larger vocabulary. Sacred writings are beneficial in stimulating desire for inward realization if one stanza at a time is slowly assimilated. Continual intellectual study results in vanity and the false satisfaction of an digested knowledge. So Swami Sri Yukteswar never encouraged anybody to read books, especially our Guru says that he discouraged him from reading books. And we need to be practical in our search for God. The timeless truths, the eternal truths are there, but then how practical we should be is reflected through a story. Once a devotee learned that God is everywhere, God is in everything, and he was very uplifted. He wanted to put this, into practical, day-to-day use. So he was walking down a street when a guy comes running in front of him and says that, run away, there's a mad elephant running towards your direction. Just turn and run, save yourself. And he would say that, no, Narayana is in every being. Narayana is in the elephant. Narayana won't harm me. And he would continue to walk. And the elephant will come and he will stand without moving and he will call the elephant Narayana, and Narayana, the elephant, will just use its trunk, lift him up with his legs, throw him to the side and keep running. And when he, dusts himself and, looks at his bruises, and then his guru would come walking and say, like, it's good that you tried to see Narayana and the elephant, I appreciate that, but Narayana was also present in the first guy who warned you and told you to run away. So we have to be practical in our search, and we have to be practical in practicing the truth. Where we are, that self acceptance, from there we'll have to take one step at a time. And um, not just reading the scriptures, but Dabru Ballav, a sage, said that just don't read Bhagavad Gita. He said, seek the spiritual vitality that has given these words the power to rejuvenate India century after century. To seek the spiritual vitality behind those words. What the sages wrote in one sentence, people just keep interpreting it in thousand different ways in for hundreds of centuries. To seek the spiritual vitality is much more important, and Swami Kriyananda did that. Just like the reading from the Rays of One Light said, a sage, a real self-realized sage, does not need scriptures. Like it doesn't have any use to a him, and it has as much use as a pond in a flooded land. And Swami Kriyananda, he tuned into Paramhansa Yogananda, and Swami Kriyananda in his own words said that, believe me, I have been meditating on our Guru, on my Guru's words, the tone in which he said, the eyes, his eyes at every instant, what it reflected, because I knew that he was a walking, talking, living, breathing scripture. And to tune into Guru and to receive wisdom from him is far more superior than anything else. And of course, all these scriptures, and including Autobiography of Yogi, they are very, very inspiring, but we need to put in action. We have to be practical, as we affirmed today, and we need not go out in search of truth. We can just tune into our own self, like the chant we played today. We can ask these questions: where is this consciousness flowing into me? Where is this will, power coming to my will? And these questions will take you towards that realization and help you experience God. So, all the best for that. Let's walk towards that experience together.